Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Jen. I'm a qualified accountant, and on this channel I break down all things money, business and investing. So in this video, I'm going to map out how to grow your wealth step by step, starting in your 20s. So this may sound cliche, but up until probably about the age of 25, you want to be working on yourself. You need to be building skills, maybe get some qualifications, just work on yourself so that you can get a job that pays you more than minimum wage. You know, that's not necessarily going to uni, but it is getting some kind of training under your belt. Maybe it's an apprenticeship or something. So you've got skills that not everybody has. So you can go out there and get a job that pays a decent wage so you can actually have money to invest. It's all right talking about what you're going to invest in, but how do you get the money to invest in the first place? I think going to uni, getting an apprenticeship, studying for something, it is super important when you're young to get those skills. If you're at uni or you're at college, you need to get a job, in your spare time in the evenings or weekends, at a pub, at a supermarket, at a cafe, just to pay your bills. You don't want to be going into so much debt just to get your qualifications, because you're going to be paying that back for 10, 20 years to come. The reality is that when you're at uni or you're doing an apprenticeship or some kind of course, you're not going to have any spare cash to invest. There'll be other things that you'll have to save your money for, like course fees, food, clothes, maybe a car, public transport. You're not going to have that much spare cash to invest. So I think up until, say, the age of 25, you really just want to be concentrating on getting those skills in order to get a good job so that you have money to invest. Also, by all means, when you're in your 20s, if you've got a good business idea, then give it a go. I think this time of life, it's so full of opportunities because you don't have any commitments. You probably don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage to worry about paying. So now is the chance. If you've got that business idea, then give it a go. I wouldn't recommend going out to the bank and getting loads of debt, going out and getting a loan just so you can start your business. But there definitely are businesses out there that you can start with very little cash. You don't have to go and get a job to earn money. Give that business a go, but getting a qualification, getting the skills you need to get a decent job, that is really important, because the reality is that, yeah, you might have a business idea, but the statistic is something like 99% of businesses actually fail in the first year. So a job with a decent income is always going to be a great fallback option, and it's going to give you the money to invest so you can be financially free when you're older. Okay, so let's say you're in your mid to late 20s and you've got a decent job, you've done all your studying, you've got a qualification, and you've managed to get a job, pays you more than minimum wage, you can cover your basic living costs and you've got money spare. What do you do with it? I would put that into an ETF. It stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And what it is a fund that invests in a lot of different companies, not just one company. So what it means is it's spreading your risk around. For example, an ETF would be the S&P 500. It's a fund that invests in the top 500 companies in the USA. There are lots of these different ETFs, and you choose one that you think looks good, but they do tend to perform on the whole better than just picking individual shares for companies that you think you look good, because for the sole reason that it spreads your risk. So if one company fails, it doesn't impact your investment massively because you're invested in 500 companies instead of just one. So if you start investing in ETFs, the average rate of return, I think over the last 30 years, has been about 10% a year. It's a lot more interest than you could ever get on your money putting it in the bank. if you save money just by putting it into a savings account in the bank, what happens is, because of inflation, your money essentially just devalues. So no matter how much you save, it's not actually in real terms going up in value because of inflation. The cost of living increases, so the value of your money in the bank is not really going up. It's just either staying the same or going down. So you want to be investing your money smartly, mid to late 20s, so that you can afford to buy a house. Okay, so now let's say you're in your 30s. You want to shift your focus into property investing. So you started in your 20s, you build up your skills, you get a decent job, so you've actually got money that you can invest. You invest that in shares, in ETFs. They go up in value, so that now you're in your 30s, you've got enough money to buy a house. The reason why I say shift your focus to property investing away from share investing is because with property investing, you can actually go to the bank and say, hey, Mr. Bankman, I've got $100,000. How much money can I borrow in order to buy a property? So you're using someone else's money, it's called leverage, in order to buy a bigger investment that then goes up in value. So if you've got $100,000 of your own cash in the bank, you can say buy a house worth $600,000. You've got an investment that's going up worth $600,000 rather than just your share investment, which would only be worth $100,000, going up at 10%. Using someone else's money in order to grow your wealth faster. In terms of tax implications of shares versus property, they are quite similar, because as long as you're not trading either shares or property, you're using them for long-term investments, then the capital gains on both are going to be tax-free. But like I say, the benefit of investing in property is the leverage that you can get. You can go to the bank, borrow money in order to invest in a bigger asset. So as soon as you can, as soon as you've got enough money to buy your first house, then go and do it. Because history has shown that properties tend to approximately double in value every 10 years. So the sooner that you can get investing in property, the more wealth you can build. Now, there are different types of property investing that you can decide to do, and I'll leave a video linked here that I've recorded a few months ago at the benefits of residential, short-term, long-term residential, and also commercial property investing. So you want to consider what type of property investor you want to be, or whether you want to spread your investments around different types of property, whether you might own a couple of Airbnb properties, a couple of long-term rentals, and a couple of commercial properties. I'd say maybe start off, if you're a beginner, with either an Airbnb or with a long-term residential. Commercial rentals tend to need a higher deposit, and they are quite different to residential properties. Another option to think about is flipping property. So there are tax implications with this, because if you buy a property with the intention of flipping it, i.e. renovating it and then selling it for a profit, you do get taxed on the gain. Whereas with a long-term residential, if you just set out to buy a property, renovate it, and then let it out long-term, you won't be taxed on the gain. So if you're flipping properties one after the other with the intention to renovate and sell them, then the IRD will tax you on that profit. You have to put a tax return in and pay tax on that profit if you are renovating and then selling consistently. So that is something to think about, but you can make quite a bit of money, if you do that as a job. Buy houses, renovate them and sell them. If you're good at it, you can make a lot of money renovating, flipping houses. I think there is a lot to be said though for just being consistent with investing. So saving up for a first house deposit buying your first house, waiting for that to go up in value, so you've got equity in your house that you can suck that equity out, borrow that money from the bank in order to take that equity and put it in an investment property. So you've got the house that you live in, you take the equity out of it and you put it in your first rental. And then you do it again and again and again. So then once that rental goes up in value, you can suck the equity out of that, put it in another one, and you just keep doing it until you've got multiple rental properties all going up in value. You don't have to renovate, flip a property in order to make money out of property. It is one method, but you don't have to do that. There are many people in New Zealand that have just invested in a property, kept it for 30 years, and it's tripled in value. The aim with property investing up until, say, your retirement age is to build wealth, not necessarily cash flow. So the benefit of property is that the capital value of it goes up. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have heaps of cash coming in, unless of course you've managed to pay your mortgage down. But I'd say that's not really the aim, I don't think, of investing in property. I invest in property in order to build capital wealth so that when I want to retire, I can then pull that out, and I'd probably either downsize my rental investment house, portfolio, so that I don't have mortgages on the properties, so that I've got a cash flow, or I would sell my property portfolio and put it in dividend yielding shares that pay me a cash flow, and I've still got my capital asset there. So I think when you're getting closer to retirement age, instead of focusing on building your capital wealth, you've got to think about changing your investment portfolio so that you've got the cash flow coming in, whether that's just downsizing the property portfolio in order to reduce the level of debt, which then gives you cash flow, or investing in shares instead that then pay you dividends. So I'm going to finish this video with some tips that apply no matter what age and stage you are at in your investment journey. So number one is to avoid lifestyle inflation. So if you get that pay rise, then invest that pay rise. Don't go and upgrade your car, upgrade your house, upgrade your clothes, upgrade your lifestyle. Just decide what amount of money that you need to comfortably live, and then invest the rest. Because whilst upgrading your car, great, it might give you a buzz initially. Does it actually make you happy? Or would investing that money to eventually give you financial freedom, now that would actually make you happy, not that initial buzz of buying something new. Tip number 2 is to automate your savings and investments. So instead of relying on yourself to remember to invest every month, set up an automatic payment that goes from your bank account each time you're paid into your investment account. This means that you're automatically buying shares, for example, every month in order to put towards a house deposit, rather than relying on you remembering to put that money in there, or hoping that you've got enough money at the end of the month once you've spent your wages on everything that you want to buy. Automating investments actually mean that they happen every month, rather than just investing by accident. The next tip that kind of follows on from the last one is consistency. So no matter how small you think your investments are every month, by ensuring that you make that investment every month rather than just make one-off investments, a couple of times a year, if you're consistent and you make monthly investments, then the power of those compounding with the power of compounding interest is what will grow your wealth, not just one-off investments here and there. The final tip is to surround yourself with people that think the same as you and that want to build their wealth just like you do. Because, you know, if you've got those friends that are constantly saying, let's go out for a drink tonight, let's go here, let's go there, you know, and that maybe they're spending their money on new cars, fancy new clothes, and that then pressures you to do the same. You know, you want friends that are going to support your goals and want to see you do well ultimately. So you are the average of who you hang around with. So just make the right decisions about who you're hanging around with. So I'll just finish this video by saying, if you're in your 20s, work hard to get a good job that pays you money. So you've actually got money to invest, or start that business. You know, you've not got any commitments, start that business. Actually be consistent with that business and give it a real go. Don't just give it a go for a few months and then when it doesn't work, quit. You have to be persistent with things like that. And, you know, your 20s are a great time to experiment with businesses, but I do also think that it is important to get your basic living expenses covered as well and get some kind of qualifications or skills behind you, because if your business doesn't work out, then you're going to want something to fall back on. So work hard, invest your money early, because the earlier you can invest, the more that money will grow, the quicker that you can get in and start buying properties. That will then grow your wealth even faster. Thanks for watching this video. Please check out my other videos that I will link here, and I will see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.